In this episode of Chembusters, the team is going to investigate genetically modified organisms or foods, commonly called GMOs, and how some of their chemical properties affect our food, health, and economy.
Hey, Shanoa.
Hey, what's up?
So what are GMOs?
GMOs are foods derived from genetically modified organisms with specific alterations to their DNA. Using molecular technology, scientists can modify plants or seeds to enhance desired traits, such as being disease or drought resistant, which leads to fewer environmental resources, chemicals, and money.
So how long has this biotechnology been used?
This biotechnology has been used for the past few decades to increase productivity in crops and to enhance its nutritional value. It's been a huge topic of debate due to its rising concerns on human rights, health, and the business monopolies. This led to the formation of Prop 37, mandating that all GM ingredients must be labeled.
But are all GM foods good for you? And how does it work?
God?
Yes.
I'm gonna go grab my team and we're gonna go research this. Let's do it.
Hi, so here we are at UC Davis. We're here to meet Dr. David Tripoli. He's a plant transfer specialist, and he's basically going to be showing us how all this GMO stuff works. Hi Dave, I'm Shen. We talked on the phone?
Pleased to meet you.
Thank you so much for letting us come and talk to you about genetically modified organisms, for showing us how it all works. So, can you describe the biochemistry of what you specifically do with these plants?
Sure. So there's a number of ways of transforming plants. In this lab, we mainly use a bacteria. This is the bacteria here called agrobacteria. And what we can do is we can actually input the gene that we want to put into the plant, back into the bacteria first. And then the bacteria does all the work for us. All we have to do is mix the bacteria with the plant tissue, and then the bacteria will put that gene into the plant cell, or the chromosome of the plant cell. The only problem with that is now I have a cell with a new gene in it, but I don't have a plant. So I have to figure out how to get that plant cell to a whole plant. And we do that by using tissue culture, all done in vitro. And here you have an example of leaves from a plant that have been soaked in the bacteria, and a certain number of these cells have that new gene in it. And by using certain growth regulators, we can stimulate those cells to stop being leaf cells and actually start thinking that they should become full plants. Now, if you look closely, you'll see a couple of these leaves have little shoots starting to develop. So, these were leaf cells that are now reprogrammed to become plants. We can reharvest those little shoots and put them on another media, and they'll start to elongate into what actually looks like a tomato plant. The only thing about that is they don't actually have any roots on it. So for that to actually happen, we have to put them on another media that has another set of growth regulators. And that's in this container. And if you look closely, there are roots starting to form. So now this plant is ready to go into soil. Now what's important about this plant is it came from another cell that had a new gene in it. So now every cell in this plant has that new gene, including the egg cell and the pollen cell. So when I make seed on this plant, that new gene is going to be passed on to the next generation. So it's a permanent change to the plant DNA.
So you really only have to do it once then?
Right, although where the gene inserts in the plant's DNA can affect how high it's expressed. So typically it will make many, like 20 or 25 times what's normally expressed.
So, I know that there's a stigma out in the public about genetically modified foods. Some would say that we have to worry about it, but based on your research, do you think that they should?
No, I think GMO foods are perfectly safe to consume. They are highly regulated. They're regulated by 3 agencies in the U.S., the USDA, the EPA, and the FDA. So they're probably undoubtedly the most crops you will find that are regulated in the world. And none of these crops can be commercialized until they are approved to be safe for both the environment and for humans.
So now we're going to take a look at a couple of popularly modified crops and some reasons for why foods might be genetically altered. It turns out that some of these changes aren't so bad. Let's take a look at corn for a minute, since it's probably the most well-known crop to be messed with on a genetic level. So Natasha, why do you think we started modifying corn in the first place?
It started because of the garden pest called the European corn borer larva. It basically gorges itself onto corn, so acres of it would be spoiled and farmers would lose their profits. So biologists discovered a type of bacteria which we call Bt, whose proteins paralyze the insect larvae and kill them from the inside out.
So how does Bt affect humans after they consume it?
It actually does not affect humans because the Bt protein is broken down by our stomach acid. Larvae, however, have an internal alkaline environment, so the Bt toxin goes straight through their digestive system, where the Bt toxin is absorbed by the body and kills them from the inside out.
Well, that's comforting. Now another popular crop is tomatoes. Scientists are trying to add genes that delay ripening. Adding the polygalacturonase enzyme in the antisense direction keeps the original enzyme from breaking down pectin, a substance in the cell walls that maintains structure. These have yet to be commercialized, but imagine how longer they'd last in our fridge.
That would be awesome. You know what's also pretty cool is the research going on for golden rice, especially in third world countries. For populations that lack vitamin A in their diet, golden rice is becoming a fortified food.
That's right. It's being designed to produce beta-carotene, a precursor of vitamin A, and is also being modified for increased resistance to herbicides and pests, which would also increase the nutritional value.
Vitamin A is also important in preventing eyesight failure and helps produce human blood protein to increase liver function.
So as you can see, there are a few areas in which genetic modification can be very useful. But you know, I'm going to get the crew together to take a look at some of the social effects of GMOs. Hi guys, I'm on a privately owned farm here, and we're going to be talking today with Mrs. Nguyen about GM crops. So, Mrs. Nguyen, what are the social effects of GM crops?
Well, there's been this huge demand in our economy to produce more foods, so I've been forced to buy and grow BT crops. And basically, by growing BT crops, I save time and I save money because I don't have to buy any more pesticides. But you know what? There is this one huge problem.
And what's that?
I'm losing my profits. I've been having to buy GM seeds on the black market because they're costing me 3 times, sometimes 5 times as much as they do from our regular seeds. And on top of that, the Monsanto company has increased the prices on their seeds. He creates these bio patents that forces farmers like me to buy these magical seeds.
And how does Monsanto force you to buy magical seeds?
Well, by making bio patents so that the non-GM crops, if the non-GM crops cross-pollinates with the GM crops, they'll sue me because they think that I'm using their seeds. And also, they're adding these terminator genes into their seeds, so when the GM crops produce seeds, they become useless because they've been modified to be infertile for the next generation.
Wow, that sounds very strategic.
Strategic, my ass! He's taking away all our farming rights and traditions!
Well, I'm assuming that all of those protesters are against Monsanto and GM crops.
Yes, they've all been infected by this. He's been taking away all our rights, especially like those people in India, like my poor husband. They've all been infected by this. You, Monsanto! You! Get away! Get away!
Welcome back to this special edition of Chembusters. Many people are uneasy about the popularity of genetically modified crops. However, through interview and research, our group found the following information.
Modified organisms are mandated extensively by the USDA, FDA, and the EPA. These agencies would not allow for the mass production of any GMO unless the food product passes their high standards and regulations. And through Dave at the UC Davis Plant Transformation Facility, we learned how a gene is put into a plant cell, and as it grows, its next generation of seeds will contain the newly added gene.
From our own research, we learned that BT is non-toxic for humans due to our very acidic digestive system, compared to the alkaline systems found in insects. We also discovered that geneticists are attempting to insert the polygalacturonase enzyme in tomatoes so it can last longer. The last thing we found out was that in third world countries, they are trying to fortify rice to have more vitamin A because it's lacking within their diets.
Through Farmer Nguyen, we learned that although the use of GMOs have many benefits, the control that these monopolized biotech companies have on poor farmers can be quite devastating, what with companies like Monsanto trying to patent seeds with terminator genes.
So, if Prop 37 had passed, would it have made a difference? Here are a few opinions we have gathered from our recent poll at Sacramento City College.
So, how do you feel about the outcome of Proposition 37?
It doesn't really matter. Food is food, bro.
I think it's horse that Prop 37 didn't pass because I want to know what's going on in my food.
I'm completely fine with that just because I feel like most foods are genetically modified anyway, so it doesn't really affect us.
Sorry, what's the question?
How do you feel about Proposition 37 not passing?
Wait, what the is Proposition 37?
I feel bad about it. I think it would have been a good thing for us to have more disclosure on our labels about what's in food. My personal opinion as a biochemist is that GMO foods are not particularly hazardous. I think there's a lot of data that supports that, and a fair amount of hysteria in the opposite direction with not a lot of data supporting the dangers. That said, I think we all should know what's in the products that we use, because that allows us to all make individual choices about whether we want to use those products or not. So that's what I think. So there.
So, there you have it, folks. Now we would like to hear from all of you watching at home, so please send us your comments or concerns to our Twitter or my face at Zenner's Class Rocks. And until next time, please tune in for another special edition of Chembusters! Yeah.
Oppan Gangnam Style.
Okay, I want to see how close I am.
Don't get my nose hairs. So I've been forced to buy these BM. I've been forced to produce BM crop or it's BT.
Hi, I'm on a privately owned farm here, and we're going to be talking today with Mrs. Nguyen Tao.
Why would you go and ruin it? Camera. Okay.
At Zender's Class Rocks, and tune in next time for another special edition of Chembusters! Chembusters!
Of course you can.
I didn't see it. Oh, my ears all messed up.
Look at the species known as the cougar.
Among knives.
That is racist, sir.
I'm half offended.
They're American Asian. They got the shotguns already.
Asian side. So, who wants to learn how to do the Dougie after this?
Come over on this side, that way you're not like having to...
My face.
My face. Does my face look okay?
Today, in religion, we have a video maker.
Dibs on the report then, you know what I'm saying? She knows. She had to call me off earlier today.
See you, Michael.
Later, guys.
Camera.
Bye.
And I come here to make love to the camera.